Welcome back to Craft Therapy. Today is Thursday, September 26th, and this is the third video that I'm doing with regards to the granny square crochet blouse that I am designing. So when we left off, I had just completed the additional motifs with the turquoise base. Today, well, not just today, but the next phase really is to now join those extra motifs so that the next thing that we'll be able to do is begin joining the front and the back to begin putting the blouse together. So let's get these motifs joined. So here are our motifs. The extra ones that I did as well as the ones that I had before. I think the only thing I need now are the solid color centers. Alright, so let me just get that. You know I have to rustle in my bag of tricks. So I need two. Right, here we go, two. Alright, so let's grab one of these as our template so we can know what we're joining and how. So the ends are purple centers. So I need 4 of those for the ends. Put this over here. Another 4 of the pinks for the side. Put that over there. And then we have our centers. Alright. So essentially the layout is going to be like this. I zoomed the camera right in so that I don't have the hiccup. So I'm just hoping I can catch everything in the frame. I don't have the hiccup of you know, going back and forth with the focus and the distance and whatever, and to ensure that I'm in focus and you can see the work clearly. So essentially this is the rough layout. So let's move these out of the way, put these off to the side here, and we're going to work on this, right? So we're going to be joining this one to this one and then this one to this one. The process is basically the same. So I might just be joining just one of them to show you what I do and do the others off camera, and we will proceed accordingly. So let's grab our thread. And I don't know if this design has a name per se, but as I said before, I found it on YouTube and I thought it was very neat in terms of what was being done, and it gave the work a nice finish to me. What I try to do until I have to deal with them, I stay away from these ends. So I'm going to be turning 2 corners together. That just looked like 5 a while ago. I'm going to be turning 2 corners together, or 2 sides together that don't have any of these ends sticking out. I'll deal with those later. Alright, so we grab our thread, start with a slip knot, and then it's going to be just going back and forth between the 2 sides as we join them using a slip stitch. So this is going to be the one that's always on top or starting. This is going to be the bottom one. And what the design started with was doing a slip stitch into the corner space right there. Remember what slip stitches are, right? So we pull it up and pull it completely through. So there we have our first slip stitch. So essentially whatever you do on one, you match it to its counterpart on the other, and you're working from the top. So we put it into the corner space there, take some fiddling to get it started, find our thread, pull it through, and pull it completely through. There you have it. And we're just going to go back and forth between the two and do the counterparts for each. Now there's a choice when you get to the actual double crochet stitches. You can either go into one loop or two. I prefer to go into two because I don't like how it looks with just one loop hanging. It seems a bit weak to me. So I prefer to just go into the two loops and slip stitch. So you pull it through the two and then pull it through again. Sometimes I find that the thread, if you're not careful with how you are working with it, it gets a little bit caught up in the work and you have to pull it out a little bit and do it over. That's fine. So we did the first double crochet on this side. We're gonna find the first double crochet on this side and do the same thing, working from the top. Push it through, find your working thread, pull through, and that's basically it. You just keep going back and forth and keep track in terms of ensuring, okay, if I'm working on the second stitch on this side, it means I'm going into the second stitch on the other side. Sometimes it looks as if that already has a stitch, but if you maintain that principle, I start here and then I end over here. So this side will never ever be ahead of this side. So if I'm in the second stitch over here, it means I find the second stitch over here and do the same thing. Pull through. As I said, sometimes it takes a little finagling because the threads do sort of get a little tangled, but you take your time and you pull through and maintain your tension. Not too tight, not too loose, just right. Like Goldilocks and the Three Bears and Little Bears bed and porridge. And we just keep it going like that. Right? Pull through. And it's okay if you twist the work back and forth to ensure that you're getting what you have to do done. Pull through. Come on, come on. Don't embarrass me. There we go. And I like to test sometimes. If it comes out and it doesn't look to me like it's the thickness, it may mean that I got the strands separated. That's how this looks to me right now. So I'm just going to pull it out a little bit, find back my stitch over here and try again. And I did get it tangled. See, it's a little bit fluffy. So it's just a matter of going by feel and going by instinct in terms of it doesn't look right, so let me do it again. And that's quite okay because you're the author. And sometimes, as I said before, it gets caught in the other threads when it's trying to come through. So you really have to pay attention. I'm going to try this again because it seems to be getting caught on something under there that is interfering with it. And it's quite okay to try until you get it the way you want it. So I'm making sure now that I have a clear pathway to pull it through so that it's not getting caught on something. There we go. I think we got it. I think we got it this time. Do we? Yes, we got it. We got it. We got it. And then when we get to the space, we do the same thing. We push it under. Whoopsie, slipped off. In the space, and do our slip knot, or slip stitch rather, pull through, in the space, slip stitch, pull through. And so here's how it is looking so far. This nice little, almost a diagonal pattern. Let me show you on a finished one. Almost like a braid. That's how it's looking, right? That's how it's going to look. So I will come back to you when I am at the last cluster, so just to show you how I finish it off. Be back in a few. Welcome back. We're at the last cluster. So we just have 3 to 4 stitches to go on each side. You know, it was behaving until I came back on camera, and all of a sudden it starts showing off for you guys and glitching. Alright, so now we just did the last double crochet stitch. Alright, what we're going to do now, the same corner space, we're going to put one set. Is that the rain again? It's been raining on and off since Saturday, and that's fine. I love the rain. Pluvial fell right here. I don't mind the rain. So we just did our second on the other side, rather, or slip stitch, and we are just going to do a single to make sure that we secure it. Pull it up a little bit and snip. And there we have our first joining. Pretty neat, isn't it? It's almost as if you don't see the difference between the rows here and where it's been joined. It's pretty neat. So I'm going to, off camera, finish all the other joinings. So I'm going to be joining this to this. I like doing them in rows or columns. So I'll be doing these 3 columns, and then I'll be joining column to column. So I'm not going to be joining a single one to this one up here, because I like the continuity of the thread, and then it will take away if I have to keep cutting the thread. So I'm going to be doing all the other columns off camera and bring you back when I'm actually going to be joining column to column, because I want to show you how we navigate the junctures, right? These four rows, so to speak, how we get the stitches going over those junctures. So see you again in a bit. And we're back. We now have 2 columns. So I'm going to be showing you how I join column to column, keeping it going, and especially crossing that juncture there. Also, what I want to point out, these fandangles that you see hanging off, I accidentally found a way to weave them into the work while I'm working with this stitch, so that it's one less end for me to have to go back and weave in when I'm completely finished with the work. So we start as we did before with our slip knot. And we do the same thing that we did before, which is our slip stitch into the corner. Pull through. Into the other corner. And you always have to try and make sure that you're working on your working thread and not one of these ends. So this is my working thread here. So I make sure that this is what I'm grabbing. Pull through. Alright. So especially because we have all of those ends kind of hanging off, we have to be very careful how we're pulling through. So here we have 3 ends that we're going to have to weave in. How did we get 3? 1 on each of these, plus the working thread has an end as well. So here's my loop that I'm working with. Alright, there's my loop. What I have started doing when I have the threads like this is I try and pull the ends that I'm trying to weave in. There's a little purple peeping out, push you back. I try to pull them a little bit forward so that I know where they are. Right? Some may be on top naturally, some you may have to pull forward. So here they are, 1, 2, 3. And then I try to keep them on the top of the work as I go. I'm going to show you what I mean. Because what you find happening is when you're doing the slip stitch, you're going under, over, under, over. So when I keep them on top of the work, I'm able to keep track of where they are in the weaving in process. And the thread goes over them naturally. So don't worry about keeping it on top of the work and it ends up sticking out on top of your work. Right? So there I have my 3 stitches that I'm trying, my 3 ends rather, that I'm trying to weave in. It takes a little bit of finagling, but it works. So we go back to what we were doing and keeping it or having this, the ends on top of the work. When I am on the bottom or the first half of the pair, I put the needle over them. Right? So there they are. I put the needle over, find my stitch, find my working stitch, ensure that it's just the working stitch that I'm getting, pull through, and complete the slip stitch, pull through. Alright, pull them down a little bit, over to the other side, and this time I get the needle under them. Find my working stitch, my working thread rather, pull through. Let's do that again. Over, find my working thread, pull through, over to the other side, under, find my working thread, pull through. Sometimes when you find it catching like that, just tug up on it to ensure that your working thread is clean, well, clear rather, and keep it going like that back and forth. If you're hearing birds, those are my budgies out on the veranda, enjoying their day as per usual. Nature is magnificent, isn't it? And I don't know if you hear children in the background. There's a school next to me, and trust me, they are quite noisy. In Jamaica we call it primary school. That's the age group that they are. In other countries you may call it elementary, but it's a primary school that's beside me. They're quite noisy. My community is very quiet and they are quite noisy. So you see how the ends that we have been weaving in are getting shorter and shorter. And what you find is, because you've now kind of crossed the hurdle of them bundling up here and you kind of get them into a streamline, it's getting easier to weave them in. And you'll just keep going back and forth like that until one by one they disappear into your work. So I am going to come back to you when I am almost at the juncture, which is what this segment is showing you, how we cross it. When I'm almost at the juncture here at the joining, I'll come back to you when we're there to show you how I go across it. See you in a few. And we're back. So here we are now at the final cluster before we jump over the intersection. So let's do that cluster, and we have 2 more threads coming up, as you can see, and we're going to weave them in the same way that we did the ones that we had above. And as you can see, take a look, all gone. Even on the back side, all gone. Just these other ends that I have to contend with later, all gone. Very neat. I discovered it accidentally, actually, when I was doing a couple of these joinings, and I realized, oh, but if I put the thread up into the working area rather than push it away, I can actually weave those ends in, and it is so neatly woven in. You would never even know that there were ends there to be woven in. You know what I mean? Discovered it accidentally, of course, after I had done several of them, leaving out the ends and intending to go back and weave them in afterwards. But I find that with crochet, if you can work smarter and not harder, when it comes on to the weaving in of the ends, work smarter and not harder, because trust me, at the end of a project, the weaving in at the end, sometimes you're gonna miss a few. So I prefer to try and weave in as I go. Others do it the other way, and that's fine. To each his own. But that's what works for me. So here we are at our corners, right? So we have a corner here. That's the top corner. And our bottom corner there. We're going to do the stitch as we did it before, which is slip stitch down here, pull through, slip stitch up here, pull through. There we have it. So we're now at the juncture. Because we also have these 2 to weave in, we're going to do the same thing that we did before, which is pull them to the front of the work so that we can see where they are as we're weaving them in. Gently pull down on my working thread, and we're now going to find the other corner on the other side of the intersection and do the same thing. Sometimes, depending on how the intersection looks, if it looks a little bit loose, I may do 2 stitches on this side and then 2 on the other side to get it really tight. But this one looks okay. So it seems as if I just need only 1. So I jump over to the other corner here, keeping those threads on top. Pull through my slip stitch. Can wiggle it. Make sure it's firm, and then I go over to the other corner. That's my alarm, my midday alarm. Over to the other corner, so look carefully where that other corner is, right? Because the stitches are so neatly done, sometimes you miss where it is. So here is our other corner right there. Push through, going under those stitches that we're trying to weave in again. Pull through. Let's go. So now that we have the corner secured on the other side, we continue our stitches as usual. So here we have our first cluster of double crochets. Find that top of the stitch, go under our ends that we're weaving in, pull through, over to the other side, find the top of the stitch, find our working thread, pull through. Keep it going. Find the top of the stitch on our bottom, pull through, keeping those ends that we're weaving in constant view. Find our counterpart on the top, slip stitch, pull through. Pull through. So you see, it's a pretty easy stitch. I mean, and if you do your research, you will find that there are several methods of, as I said, it's pretty easy. Look at it giving me a fight. So sometimes I just gently slip it off and try again. So let's go again. That's our third stitch right there. Working thread. There we go. Finally got it through. Pull through. Now we're at the space, so we go under our ends that we're weaving in, pull through, go over, pull through, and we keep it going just like that. And that's how we do all the junctures. So that's pretty much it for this video. At the end, I will come back with footage of all of the motifs being joined. So all of these additional pieces that we have to join, I have another column to put onto this so that it will look like this. And all of these other motifs to join, so I'll come back when I have these joined, so that we now have 4 of these joined motifs ready to go onto our bigger piece of work. So thank you for joining me for Craft Therapy today. It was wonderful having you, and remember, when your hands are busy, your mind is at peace. Have a wonderful day of crafting. See you next week. Adios.